I was introduced by a good friend of mine who is an Ayurvedic health counselor, which sounds a little bit different than what you're doing, I know, but she was very adamant about what was new to me, this thing called single tasking. We all hear about multitasking, but single tasking sounds so lazy.
Yeah, you look at the data on multitasking, and Microsoft does a study every single year. And what they basically say is when we multitask, it takes us 2.5 times longer, and we make 50% more mistakes. So those aren't good odds. And if people really understood the data behind busyness, and how it affects the quality of your work, your ability to be able to focus, to concentrate, to get stuff done, to feel like you're, working on what's important to you, all of that fades. And that's why it's so important, because it's good for your productivity, it's good for your health, your mental health, and it's also really good for your happiness when you focus on what's important. So that's the key here.
You didn't start your business to be busy all the time. I know that because I am in the same boat. We're all rowing along, looking around ourselves and thinking, why the heck am I turning my business into a busyness? I know that sounds kind of silly, but let me bring someone in who's going to clarify, clear the air, really give us some direction forward. And that is Peggy. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, why this topic matters to her, and why it absolutely matters to you. Peggy, welcome to the show.
My name is Peggy, and I am a busyness addict in recovery. So, what does that mean? So many of us, we get used to that hamster wheel running hard, and we feel as though busyness equates to success. It's a status symbol, it's a sign of importance. But if you look at the data behind busyness, you'll realize we're less productive, we are less happy and unhealthier than the alternative. So I'm really big on helping people find out how to achieve more by doing less.
That is so perfect. And honestly, I think we've got a great launch point already, because you just talked about how when people try to do more, they wind up accomplishing less. And a number of years ago, I was introduced by a good friend of mine who is an Ayurvedic health counselor, which sounds a little bit different than what you're doing, I know, but she was very adamant about what was new to me, this thing called single tasking. We all hear about multitasking, but single tasking sounds so lazy.
Yeah, you look at the data on multitasking, and Microsoft does a study every single year. And what they basically say is when we multitask, it takes us 2.5 times longer, and we make 50% more mistakes. So those aren't good odds. And if people really understood the data behind busyness and how it affects the quality of your work, your ability to be able to focus, to concentrate, to get stuff done, to feel like you're, working on what's important to you, all of that fades. And that's why it's so important, because it's good for your productivity, it's good for your health, your mental health, and it's also really good for your happiness when you focus on what's important. So that's the key here. And the reality is 93% of us are stuck on this busy treadmill. We want off, but we don't know how. And so that's exactly why I started to develop a process. And my process, I call it performance by design, but it's intended to give people a easy, actionable way to to get 5 to 7 hours back each and every week. So I always love telling people, think about what would you do with 5 to 7 hours back? How would you spend it intentionally? And I have a video of a lot of colleagues and peers, and it's interesting. One woman said, gee, I'd be outside more because nature is where I innovate.
Yes.
And another woman said that she really just wanted to be more productive. She was really tired of being midway through and having no sense of accomplishment. And another person tell me they'd focus more on people management so that they would really nurture their employees and make them more effective. So there's so many goodies that we could do if we just get off the hamster wheel. It's just knowing what to do.
So, myth busted. Single tasking is superior to multitasking. We're actually not being lazy, we're being more productive and feeling more fulfilled.
Exactly.
I love that to bits and pieces, because goodness gracious, is it ever aligning when you're able to reduce the noise that's going on in your brain when you attempt to multitask, and you can just focus on
I'm stepping into this year of being really self-aware, and I'm always asking myself this question: is what I'm doing or about to do value add? Is it really important? Will the world go on without it? Is it how I want to make a difference? And if in many times maybe there's something that needs to be done but doesn't have to be done. And so it kind of helps you eliminate those low value activities that we don't even think about every day. The average person gets interrupted 67 times a day. So 67 times a day, we stop, we start, we stop, we start. And our brain wasn't wired for that. So our brain says, hey, wait a minute, I want to do a good job here. So I've got to reframe, and it takes a period of time, usually about 18 to 23 minutes, to regain the focus. So there's just a lot of self awareness that happens when you understand these statistics, when you understand this data, when you understand that we make choices that are hurting us. We keep on thinking that we're a victim and that the world is pulling us into this over the top busyness scenario. But actually, we have control over it. And that's the fun part, because once you learn how to control it, that's when life really begins to be fun.
Well, because really, in this circumstance, many of us who are high achievers, many of us who are caught in this busyness hamster wheel, we like control. Let's be honest with ourselves. We like to have that control. So when you tell me that it takes 18 to 23 minutes to refocus after being distracted in this highly distractible world, it's literally curated to distract us. And you tell me that people are regaining 5 to 7 hours every week of their time by going through this process and really refining the way they look at time and what they do with their time. It sheds to light this idea that anyone who's being distracted, which is everyone, or not taking the steps to regain that 5 to 7 hours a week, we're really living in this space of what I've heard you coin time poverty. So we're looking at time in a way that we are lacking, constantly feeling this lack.
And it's personal and professional. And people should really know that fine line between personal and professional, it's been gone a long time. And so for those of us that love to put things in boxes and be tidy, it's a messy world. The world doesn't function that way. And so that's why it's really important on a personal and professional level that you're looking at the holistic opportunity.
I love that you just said that. I really do, because as somebody who is a mom, a business owner, a wife, somebody who cares for, I'm the club sandwich generation. So I have my kids, my parents, and I even am lucky enough to have my grandmother. That's a lot. And if I were to try to box everything up, goodness gracious, You wouldn't see me.
Yeah, life doesn't work that way. If your grandfather called and had a need, as a granddaughter, I'd want to be there and I'd want to make it a priority. And, that's one of the skill sets I think that a lot of people don't take advantage of is the unexpected, is
Mm.
the I didn't think this was going to happen, or the unforeseen opportunity. And so that's why it's really important as part of the process to time block, to make
Mm.
sure that you have time in your day for those unexpected things, because they always come up. And you know what? If they don't, like, I blocked an hour today for the unexpected things, and I don't have a lot that I have to do that came up last minute. And so, lucky me, I'm going to go for a walk. And that'll be great because I'm doing some consulting and some workshops later today. And that will give me the breather to be renewed and refreshed and to really have a home run and be present.
I really like that. And I think of something that I've started to do in my business that I think could be maybe piggybacked onto that in a really interesting way. And I want to share this with the people who have joined us for this conversation because it switched my mindset about how I'm structuring my day. And I want to ask you a follow-up question, Peggy. So the situation that I'm currently implementing, I guess, is instead of putting buffer time on either end of my calls, because buffer time feels like we're waiting for something. It feels urgent. I've actually turned that into, in my time blocks, because I also time block my day, I turn that into intermission, because to me an intermission is light. You're not necessarily anticipating anything because you know it'll happen and it's okay. You're taking that time to grab a snacky snack, to go to the bathroom, to maybe socialize a little bit in your own way, whatever that looks like. Maybe you turn on a song and dance into the song as you socialize, and whatever that looks like. Intermission just feels different than buffer time. So what I'm curious about is, what do you title, and I know this sounds trivial, but I think there's a deeper meaning to this. What do you title your unexpected opportunities or situation time? If you block an hour, is it just like, what do you put there?
Yeah, I mean, the process that I teach people is a three-step process, and it's really as simple as identifying your low value activities. We're going to talk about a tool called the Busy Barometer that will help you figure out how you're spending your time and where there's opportunity to improve. And then I really suggest these things I call happiness rituals. We tend to think that happiness is a destination, a thing. I'm going to be happy when I get the job, when I get time off. It's always conditional about something, but happiness, it's not a destination, it's not a thing. It's literally these micro moments that we create for ourselves. And happiness is really a super emotion, because when we're happy, we have ability to focus, we're much more engaged, we're more charismatic. We actually, the quality of our work improves, we're in a better mood, we fight off chronic disease, and hey, happy people live longer. So we don't think about happiness as an emotion, but here's the thing: you can get a 60-second shot of dopamine that is just as effective as an hour walk in the park. You just need to know how to do these intentional happiness rituals. I know for me, every day at 11 a.m., no matter where I am, I eat a piece of dark chocolate. I just take a 60-second pause. I put the chocolate under my nose and I smell it, and I make it a real experience because it smells so good. And it just kind of calms me down. And then I put the chocolate in my mouth and I think about nothing except for, how does this taste? Oh, this is so good, And then when I'm done, it's like the reset button. And there are so many little things that we can do to push the reset button. It really is a process. It is a process, once again, I call performance by design, so that you eliminate your low value activities, you make sure you take these happiness rituals. And then I think the last thing that's so important is value alignment. What's important to you? What are your values? What gives you a sense of fulfillment. I did research last year, tens and thousands of people, and my research showed me that 88% of Americans have a lost sense of purpose. So that means the very things that motivate us, that get us out of bed in the morning, the things that make us feel satisfied, we're missing. And so I think it's really important to understand what your values are, to be able to clearly identify the ones that add more meaning in your life and think about them in a more holistic version. So, for example, growth and human connection are two very, very important things that we need on a personal side, but definitely on a professional side. And I researched, I think at the end of the year, 12,000 people. And I asked them, what values evoke this sense of I am fulfilled? And it turned out there are only 3 of them. So if you start to think about your time, not as time management, but more as values management, it gets a lot easier and a lot more doable. So what are the 3 values? I'm sure everybody's like sitting on the end of their chair waiting to hear it.
100%. That was my next question.
Yeah, it is about growth and learning something new. It is about human connection because we are better together and we can rise up and do great things when we have the right people along our side. And then the last one is energy management. And it's how do you manage your energy so that you optimize everything? And also, it's about self care, taking care of yourself. Your car doesn't run on empty and neither do you, but both of those things are in our control. What type of mood we're in. I have a mood elevator that I use all the time where I think about my mood. Is it in the basement or is it up top on the roof? And
Right.
it can't always be up top on the roof, but if you come in at least in the middle of the elevator, the middle floor, and you at least are curious and aware and are in a state of inquisition, you will be much stronger at getting things done, problem solving, and seizing your day, basically.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. And to be perfectly honest, that sort of intention and presence and values aligned decision making is a theme that seems to be popping up a lot lately. In fact, there was a conversation I recently had, and I'm sure that anyone who is joining us today could find it, with a gentleman, and we were talking about sipping tea. And I told a story. So I'm going to challenge anybody who's joining us today to find that episode and see if you can discover that sipping tea moment for me and attach that story, the idea behind that story, to something that you're experiencing now, because I guarantee you it's in complete alignment with this conversation. Now, my next question is a little bit more tactical, practical. You mentioned about performance by design, priorities, and in my mind, I started to think about the Eisenhower's matrix. When you start thinking about what is urgent, what's important, what is not urgent, what is unimportant, and you start kind of mapping things out. My question is a little bit dynamic in such that I'm curious about how you apply those values to that matrix, because I feel like that matters.
Yeah, I keep a value scorecard. I know at some point in my career, maybe about 5 years ago, I was like, I'm working a lot, but it doesn't feel good to me. I don't feel
Mhm.
satisfied. So that's when I really got into this values management. And I actually just did a TEDx in Zimbabwe about this
That's
and how to choose meaning over mayhem. But it's really about understanding your values. I keep a values report card, and so if 12,000 people say the values that give you quality of life are human connection, growth, and energy management, then hey, I'm going to adopt those and see how they work with me. And so every week, at the end of the week, I just look at those 4 or those 3 values and I score myself. And if I'm not connecting with other human beings, or other peer groups, if I'm not managing my energy, if it was a week where I traveled and self care was a lower priority, I don't have a complex system. I just say, okay, next week I'm going to focus in on it and I'm going to make sure that I work out more, or I have more human connection time, or I learn something new. So I'm adding to my skill set. It's just such an easy way to do it. And that's what I'm all about. We don't need hard things. We need easy, actionable steps where they become our habits because they make us feel good and they let us focus on the things that bring us joy and fulfillment.
It can't be any more simple than that. I love that so much. Now, that said, I have innumerable questions when it comes to applying this to business, but a lot of that is going to have to fall into two categories. Either we're going to have to infer them as participants in this conversation, and or we're going to have to reach out and have an extended conversation by engaging with this post, by engaging with the community here that surrounds Marketing Rebels, and asking important questions, because Peggy and I would be more than happy to contribute to that conversation and give you feedback for your particular business and what you're doing in life as well. Because this, as we said right from the get-go, life and business are intricately intertwined. That said, we can't answer them all right now. So what I'm actually going to ask of you, Peggy, is to think for a moment about one piece of gold nugget wisdom that you can share with us today, that those of us who have all those questions and we can't answer them right now can carry with them for the rest of the day and become inspired to start asking curious questions of themselves and being present in communities where they can get those answers. So I'm going to get you to think about that just for a minute. And in that time, I want to remind all of you who've joined us today that these conversations happen every single and you're invited. So please tap that bell, subscribe so you get the notifications when it's coming out the next time, and you can join us, share with your friends, like and comment, because honest to goodness, I want to answer your questions. So please do. With that, I will get off my soapbox, and Peggy, please tell the people what they need to hear.
Yeah, I think the most important step is to eliminate low value transactions. Let's face it, when we're busy, nothing makes sense. We're just on autopilot. As a matter of fact, one time I thought I was feeding my cat and eating some pistachio nuts, and I mixed the two up, and I actually ate cat food for dinner. And that's what happens when you're on autopilot. So I tell people the first thing that you can do where you will feel immediate impact is to eliminate low value transactions.
Absolutely.
And the way to be able to do that is go to this QR code and to figure out what your low value transactions are. I have a 2 to 3 minute survey that will help you identify things that can be eliminated or things that are kind of clogging up your time and your space. And it will give you some suggestions on what to do next. And I'm also a open book. Anybody who wants to go to my website and to book a discovery call with me, I am just so enamored with helping other people escape time poverty that I'm always there to help you get started and figure out the how.
Oh my goodness. I am so thrilled with that. Here's the thing about this beautiful opportunity to dive into what is it called? Let me recall now. The Busy Barometer. This is the form that we're talking about to find out how to eliminate, to find out what your low value transactions are so that you can then eliminate them. The biggest thing about this that I just took away was that as you were discussing, this is the next thing. You need to take away your low value transactions. And I know this feeling that everyone who's joined us today probably has something similar where they're like, okay, but how? The beauty of it is that you literally take the thing, the test, the form, and it tells you.
Yeah, just take a micro step. And for me, it's all about these micro steps that before you know it, you're up the top of the mountain, and you did it one micro step at a time. So it wasn't painful, it wasn't hard. All you did was put one foot in front of each other and take baby steps. And it starts with that low value transaction elimination, and then even the happiness rituals, they're game changing. I tell people about this dark chocolate thing, and before I know it, people are carrying around dark chocolate with them. And I do the dark chocolate exercise in all of my speaking gigs and my workshops so that people can understand 60 seconds and you reset, 60 seconds to get an endorphic rush, to feel good, to have more focus, more clarity. These aren't hard things to do. They're really simple, easy things to do, and they make you feel good. So, hey, why not?
And the beauty of that is the fact that it's not just mindset fluff. It is literally your brain chemistry. This is neuroscience. We're talking about making sure those beautiful neurons in your brain are set up for success in order to produce and receive the chemicals naturally in your body that make you happy, more focused, and in alignment with whatever's coming next. So thank you, Peggy, so much for all of that information, for giving us the opportunity to dive in and really eliminate those low value transactions, because that's my next task. I'll tell you that much. And I want to remind everybody here that you can reach out to us anytime, and that it really is just one baby step at a time to creating the business and the lifestyle that feels good. With that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. We will 100% chat soon. Bye now.